Hi, welcome back to Blue Mountain Bushcraft and Outdoors. A while back I was approached by a company in China by the name of Gearbest. Many of you have probably heard of them already. And they wanted me to review some folding knives for them. I wasn't so much interested. So I dug deep into their catalog and I found something that was pretty interesting. That's what today's review is going to be about. So if you're curious, stick around. Okay, so like I said, this company Gearbest is a Chinese company and they have all sorts of products. You name it, they've got it. I poked around on their site until I found something that looked like it might be high quality, but who can tell, right? So anyway, I picked this thing out. It had a couple of intriguing design elements that looked pretty familiar. So I wanted to see what it was all about. And what they sent me was this. This is called a rock from HS Outdoors. Comes in this box. Pretty much everything on the box is in Chinese. So let's take a look at the knife that's inside. Okay, so this is the knife out of the package. Now, again, I've been using this for probably close to 2 months now, and does not have the factory edge on it because the factory edge kind of sucked. I put my own edge on it. These things run, I don't know, $39, $40 on Gearbest's website. So it was rather intriguing to me. First, it comes with a kydex sheath. As you can see, the kydex in the sheath is relatively thin, but the molding is clean. It looks pretty nice. It's well put together. It has a built-in ferro rod holder and a built-in diamond hone along the edge of the sheath here, which is pretty cool. This is the knife. This is the rock from HX Outdoors. Now, look at the back end of that knife and tell me what you guys see. Looks like a Bear Grylls knife, doesn't it? Exactly what I thought. Here is a Bear Grylls Ultimate Pro survival knife. Looks pretty darn similar. That was enough to draw me in. The other point that drew me into this knife was the steel. This is advertised as being made out of D2 tool steel. I was a little skeptical, but hey, who knows? So yeah, I can say after using this and reprofiling the edge that I'm fairly confident that this is D2 tool steel. Steel in this is excellent. So how about if I put this down, I'll break out a ruler, I'll show you a couple of specs, and we'll get that out of the way, and we'll throw this into some wood and show you how it does. Okay, so let's get on to the knife. Like I said, as advertised, this is supposed to be D2 tool steel, and from my experience with it, I would say that that's probably pretty accurate. D2 is a fairly tough, wear-resistant steel, and in reprofiling this edge and maintaining it, I'd say that it behaves just like the other D2 tool steel knives that I have. So it's a full tang knife, as you can see. Runs all the way down through to this hammer pommel, which is kind of cool. That's all one solid piece. That hammer pommel really gives this a fair bit of heft to it. Just in case you get confused, it does have some markings on there to remind you that is a hammer. And some words of encouragement on this side. I don't know. Other markings on the blade. HX Outdoors. On this side, I don't know who the Super TD is. maybe the designer. And a marking there, it'll let you know that sharpened section is ready to assist you with your fire making. But in any case, it's full tang. There's some jimping here, some jimping here, and some jimping here. None of it is overly aggressive, and it's actually fairly comfortable, and I don't mind it being there. There are two, I think, aluminum tubes here, lanyard hole in the back, which could be used in combination with a stick or something if you wanted to make yourself a spear for cutting things down from high places or whatever you'd use a spear for. Two bolts on either side are holding the black G10 handles in place. I have not tried to take these off, so I'm not sure what it looks like underneath. But the G10 is moderately grippy. It's not aggressive, but it definitely gives you some decent traction. Contouring of the handle feels good in the hand. There is a finger choil for choking up. I will say that this finger choil is probably much more suited for smaller hands than mine. I can fit my fingers in here and it's not bad, but one thing you'd be well advised to do, which I have not done, is take this corner off right here, as I can see where it would be very easy to get your finger cut. Said I haven't yet, but really it's just an accident waiting to happen. The knife has a 4-inch blade and a 5-inch handle. It's well proportioned. Like I said, it feels good in the hand, and it's got a fair amount of heft to it for a blade this size, and that's because of that heavy integral hammer pommel. The grips are nicely contoured. They're well rounded. There's no places on here that have even remotely thought about giving me any hot spots. And overall, it's a very comfortable knife. I like the feel of it quite a lot. Okay, so how does it fit in the sheath? Pretty well. Retention's not bad, but if you can hear that, it's got a fair amount of rattle to it. So I haven't done this yet, but I am planning on heating this up just a little bit and forming that a little tighter. And I think, heck, you can even just squeeze that just a little bit. I think if I warm that up and tighten it, it'll take all the rattle out of there. So fit's not bad, and the retention is pretty decent. Okay, so this is my second time coming out here to review this thing. I came out yesterday and ran into some technical difficulties and came out today to finish it. I just decided to start all over again. So, like I said, this is a reprofiled edge. As it came, I think the edge profile was about 25 degrees per side, which was a little steep, and it wasn't quite as sharp as it could be. So I brought this down to a 20-degree angle and honed it up, and this, I will tell you, takes one of the sharpest edges of any knives that I have. It's ridiculously sharp. Actually, it's so sharp that yesterday when I was touching it up, it bit me pretty good. But I was wailing on this a little bit yesterday for some footage, and if I still have it, I'll roll a little bit of that in. But just to show you how sharp this thing really is. That's pretty impressive. This is receipt paper, which is thin, and that's after cross-grain batoning this a fair amount yesterday. It's still doing that. So the edge taking and the edge holding are pretty good. What are we going to use? The hammer for. Well, I've actually used hammer pommels like this in the past for breaking up charcoal. I was at a class with a Stellar Wilderness Education, and we were making pitch glue. We had lots of charcoal, but it wasn't in the necessary powder form. So I wasn't using this knife, I was using a different one, but this one will work very nicely. Actually, this one's working better than my other one for crushing that all in down to a fine powder. The entire length of the spine is actually sharpened, except for this jimping here, which is just ever so mildly rounded on all points, which makes it pretty comfortable and still moderately effective. This portion here, the silver portion, where you can see they've ground it down a little bit more, is even sharper than the rest of this. Honestly, if they'd have left it like this, it would have been fine. This part is ridiculously sharp. So let's see how it does with the supplied ferro rod. Yeah, no problem at all scraping a ferro rod. You can do some very light chopping with this, some light limbing, things like that. But let's face it, this is a 4-inch blade. It's handle heavy. It's just not going to chop well. Let's see how it batons. And this will tell us something about the quality of the steel as well. We're going to be cross-batoning, or cross-grain batoning this piece of wood. And hopefully I don't get too crazy and sink it into the rock below. D2 is good, but it's not good enough to withstand that. Not bad. Not bad at all. How about some regular batoning? No problem. That full flat grind works pretty well for this stuff. This isn't the greatest feathering wood, but let's see how it does. I choke up on that a little bit. I will tell you right out of the box, it's not doing this. Like I said, that blunt edge angle and the level of sharpness that it was delivered with just did not lend itself to this kind of work. With a little TLC and fixing that edge up does a really good job. It's got a lot of bite. Not too bad. How does it do with push cuts? That edge and the full flat grind, it should do pretty well. Not as good as a Scandi, but better than a saber. It's got a pretty fair amount of bite to it. If you want a notch, it'll do the job. Heavier cuts. It's got a lot of bite. Alright, let's check the edge after all that. See what we got going on. Same piece of paper. It's got the ferro rod marks there, so I didn't edit this in. Huh. Feels like there's a couple little hitches in there. Yeah. Okay. I can't see them with my eye, but I can feel them with my fingernail, and you can feel them as it passes through the paper. You can see that it's still extremely sharp, but with me thinning this edge out, the steel seems to be prone to getting microchips in it. It has absolutely no effect on its cutting ability in wood or in food or other materials, but it does get microchips. Just be aware of that. I don't think this would do that with the factory edge on it, but then you would also not be getting near the cutting performance that I'm getting out of this. So it's a trade-off. If you don't mind a little bit of microchipping in the edge, and like I said, man, it's still wicked sharp. That's still got a lot of work left in it. But if that doesn't bother you, and it really does not bother me, then I say go for it and thin that edge down, as the cutting performance increase is well worth it. Wrap this up. What do I think of this knife? Well, for, like I said, $35, $40, I think it's a hell of a value. The sheath is good to go right out of the box. It's got this diamond sharpening steel. It's got your ferro rod, which is a quality ferro rod. And it's just well done. I like the sheath. How about the knife? Well, I gotta tell you, fit and finish isn't perfect. You can see little imperfections in the fit of the handle, little places where the jimping doesn't perfectly made up, but none of that translates to feel in the hand. The feel in the hand of this knife is actually very good. I've got large size hands. I've got plenty of room on this. It's very comfortable. There's no place in here where I'm getting any kind of hot spots, even during heavy cutting chores. The jimping is actually well done. You know, would I rather it not be there? Maybe. Maybe not though. It does provide a little bit of traction, and it's not aggressive. Whereas if you had to put your thumb on this sharpened area all the time, it'd wear your thumb out pretty quick. So that's not bad. This forward choil is a little on the small side, and like I said, this corner of the edge here could stand to be relieved a little bit, because sooner or later that's going to cut your finger. Hammer pommel is very functional. It works well. Adds some weight to the knife for certain. It's the first thing you notice when you pick this thing up. It's got a little heft to it, but it functions well. Materials are good. The D2 takes just a ridiculous edge, an absolutely ridiculous edge, and it holds the edge pretty well. You do get these little microchips in there with use, And I don't know if that's something just because of the 20-degree edge angle I put on there, that it might stabilize over time, but I don't know, we'll see. I will continue to use this knife because it's actually a really nice knife. I like it a lot. What else can I say about it? The finish is actually holding up well. You can see there's some marks, but really that's just dirt. That ought to clean off pretty well. There are scratches along in here, and that's for me with my sharpening stones when I was reprofiling the edge. Other than that, the finish, whatever this finish is, it's not a painted on finish. It seems pretty tough. D2 is like I said, it's a tool steel. It's very hard, very abrasion resistant, holds an edge well, and it's also a semi-stainless. So there's a fair amount of chromium in here, but not quite enough chromium to call it a full-on stainless steel. But between the D2 and this coating, and if you're in a wet environment, this thing would be fantastic. I think it'd hold up really well. Great sharp spine, super sharp there where the little fire symbol is. Yeah, I give this HX Outdoors Rock a big thumbs up. This thing's really good, surprisingly good. And for $40, that's a hell of a bargain. Alright guys, so I want to thank the folks over at Gearbest for sending me this to check out and review. I've dealt with Gearbest in the past as a paying customer on a number of occasions, and you know, things are shipped from China, so shipping is slow unless you pay a little extra, but shipping is also free. And they've treated me very well. I had an issue with one of my orders. The items never made it to me, and turns out it was not their fault. It was actually stolen mail here in the United States. And they covered me with a credit to my account, which they didn't have to do because it was clearly not their fault. So I've got no complaints with Gearbest as a company. You know, if you choose to do business overseas in China and you're okay with that, then go for it. It's a really nice knife. This thing's a real sleeper, guys. I've not seen it for sale anywhere here in the US. Near as I can tell, this is just an overseas thing, but Gearbest has them in stock. Put the links down below. Go check it out, and if something like this appeals to you, I say go for it. I think you'll be happy. You'll be a lot happier if you reprofile the edge. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. If you haven't yet, hit that red subscribe button down below. I've got more content coming this summer. Hopefully some good stuff coming down the road. Alright guys, that's it for tonight. I'll see you later. Bye.